this season.
And Tony Kornheiser, yes. But I particularly enjoyed who they beat last night. Refresh my memory again. Tell the people who they beat last night.
2-possession game at the United Center in Chicago. 2 possessions.
So
they came close.
So was the Chicago Bulls.
Yes, they came close.
They
came closer than just about anybody to beating Cleveland. And the Bulls are not,
Close is good, but they don't really pay off on close unless it's a point spread. Unless it's a point spread. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Bears dumped their offensive coordinator.
Good.
Joel Embiid is finally ready to play, and Jeff Saturday joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the Miami Dolphins holding the Rams to no touchdowns and beating them in Los Angeles 23-15. Matthew Stafford completed 32 passes for 293 yards, but could not get in the end zone. Tua Tagovailoa played fine for Miami, but scared everybody when he made a tackle on an interception. Yeah. Miami is now 3-6, but has the second easiest schedule remaining. The Rams are 4-5, tied for 10th in the NFC with your Bears. Wilbon, how does this result affect your perception of each team?
I don't have a perception of either of these teams, and I'm not going to let myself fall for the nonsense that everybody now looks at. Well, are they eliminated yet? They're not officially eliminated. They could run the table.
They could.
This is nonsense, okay? And by the way, the Dolphins are pretty good, but the Dolphins had that period without Tua when they're a completely different team, and they were 2-6, and they're not going to be relevant this season. Now the Rams, who by winning last night could have been very relevant.
Yes.
They're at home, and they lost that game. And by the way, they take the field goal late, and I get it because you're down. You're cutting 11-8.
Yes.
You got to do it.
You got to do it.
Except there's no way in hell they're going to score. They're not even going to get the onside kick, but they're not going to score a touchdown because they couldn't the whole game. They're irrelevant now, too. Both these teams, irrelevant.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I will say that the Dolphins are not going to catch Buffalo.
No.
So they're going to have to pile up 9 wins somehow to get into the playoffs as a wild card.
That means 6 and...
Well, okay, let me tell you who they got coming up. The first 2 games are the Raiders and the Patriots. They can win those games.
Good.
Then they have 2 with the Jets and 1 with Cleveland. So that looks like 5 wins.
Looks 5 possible.
They are better, as you have said, with Tua.
Yes.
Which is better. Why your heart is in your mouth when on the interception he puts his head down to make the tackle. Yeah. Look, it is his choice to play. It is apparently his right to play. I get that. That doesn't mean I don't have fear when I see him out there.
When I watch him, it makes me nervous. I'm watching him even because we've seen routine tackles result in a concussion for him.
Don't tackle. Pull him off the field.
I'm going to say this, and this is maybe this is a little weird. I watch him, and I'm fearful, and part of me saying, please, kid, you have enough money already. But then part of me is thinking, there's a lot of courage. He has a lot of courage.
Not knocking that.
Be out on the field knowing that one of these hits could not just send him away from football,
but it happens when you're passing or running, fine.
Oh, my God.
But not if you're making a tackle and leading with your head. And by the way, just quickly on the Rams, you have to beat, when you're at home, you have to beat a 2-6 team. You have to do that. And the Rams I think they've got the Bills and the Eagles and the 49ers coming up. So I don't think they're going to make it. I don't think
neither of these teams is relevant any longer.
At the moment. Let's move on. Wilbon, you called another Bears moment.
It was easy.
As you predicted and wanted, the Bears have fired offensive coordinator Shane Waldron.
Good.
His replacement is Thomas Brown, the alleged passing game coordinator. Caleb Williams will remain the starting quarterback. What does this move say to you about the organization?
They got it wrong with hiring this guy as the offensive coordinator. Whether that was Ryan Poles, the GM, or Matt Eberflus, the coach, or some combination thereof, he wasn't the guy. And it's really set them back now.
They could have had Cliff Kingsbury.
Well, maybe.
Right?
But if Cliff Kingsbury, if they wanted him to be there for more than a year because they didn't want to change again, that intent is great. But then you wind up with this, where this guy's not even there a year. Look, this doesn't solve everything. And I hope this offensive coordinator, this new guy, maybe he's got something. Maybe he's a guy who needed a chance, and this is how you get it. But, Tony, this is a franchise that knows nothing about offensive football forever.
Yeah.
That still has more championships, not Super Bowls, championships than any team in the NFL, and none of them were won on the offensive side of the ball, and that includes now. So now Caleb Williams' maturation, I'm scared it's retarded. I hope it's not, because I love the kid. And I don't know if they know what they're doing with hiring an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And then they got to go out, if this guy's not spectacular, and get another one. Okay? So it's This is what we live with when you're a Bears fan and you talk about offensive football. Nobody knows what they're doing.
I understand why they want Caleb Williams to keep starting. I would not do this. I would not do this because I think, Mike, as you think, this season is lost.
It's done.
And he keeps taking a lot of sacks. 9 sacks in the previous game, 38 in the season, the highest in the NFL. Now, maybe he holds the ball too long, but I think he's got to sit down and watch. And I'm going to give you some examples. You take quarterbacks from bad teams. Bryce Young, Carolina, bad team. Sat for a few games, came back in, not setting the world on fire, but has won 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
Drake Mace, bad team, New England. Sat the first 5 games. He is now 2-3, only has, I think, 14 sacks in 5+ games. I don't think that there's a stigma to sitting down for a while and learning what the pro game is.
There's a stigma, but it's
Mike, if he is your long-term investment, treat him like your long-term investment.
Is coach him. The last quarterback they traded up to get, and they didn't coach him adequately, Tony. The problem is not personnel. It's not Caleb Williams. The problem is failed coaching. And if you want to say anything about the organization, it is that when it comes to the offensive side of the game, there's failed coach after failed coach after failed coach.
Yeah.
And I hope that Ryan Poles can get it right. Because you know what?
Mike, they could get rid of everybody. They could go top down, GM all the way down, throw them all out.
That's not how that franchise does business.
They could.
That's not how they do business. But the head coach, he's on the clock.
Oh, yeah. Well, you said he'd be out.
And what's my man in Detroit? Is the offensive coordinator in Detroit?
Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson. I'm looking lovingly up I-94. That's what I'd be doing. 2 big stories to watch is the NBA Cup games. I'm rolling my eyes. Get underway tonight. Philly. Joel Embiid is going to make his season debut finally for the 2-7 Sixers against your Knickerbockers. And 3,000 miles away in San Francisco, Klay Thompson will face the Warriors for the first time ever now that he's a Maverick. Tony, which one is the bigger deal?
So I'm going to yield to you eventually, but from where I'm sitting, it seems to me like Klay Thompson is the bigger deal. He has 4 rings there, and not to put too fine a point on it, Joel Embiid ain't got no rings. Okay? Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are, and I use this word advisedly, an immortal backcourt. Just absolutely immortal backcourt. Now, people get old. You and I got old sitting here. But he was a great player there. Sometimes it's time to move on. I will say this. He moved on without rancor, and I'd be stunned if he doesn't get a standing ovation.
He's going to get one of the longer standing ovations you've ever seen.
Embiid might get a standing ovation as well, because they're nothing without him. Right. He hasn't played in a game, and they're 2-7. So he's going to play tonight, but it's the first of a back-to-back. And he has said, I don't want to play back-to-backs. So this is a first of 15 back-to-backs. Yeah. So by the math, he could miss at least 24 games without getting hurt, and he always gets hurt. I told you this before. If I'm a season ticket holder at Philadelphia, I'm screaming consumer fraud.
Well, they're screaming. I don't know that it's anything as sophisticated as consumer fraud. Tony, the bigger deal. This is hard for me because Joel Embiid is
your boy.
Well,
he is.
That's not important. Joel Embiid, when he's on the court, is unstoppable. He's as unstoppable as any big out there. When it comes to being able to score whenever he needs to, wants to. Right. Yes, he gets hurt in the playoffs, but right now, so they need him back. And they are screaming in Philly, as you and I have gone over many days. Klay Thompson, though, this is a one-time deal where it's your first time back.
Yeah.
And Klay Thompson is beloved there. I was there every postseason since 2014. He's beloved as anybody who's not named Steph Curry.
Yeah.
All right? So
you agree, it's an immortal backcourt.
It's immortal backcourt. Well said.
Yes.
And so the ovation for him will be tearful. And he ain't going to shed the only tears. Don't tell me Draymond Green and Steph and Steve Kerr aren't going to be emotional, because they should be. Everybody in the house will be. Klay Thompson is that important to that franchise and those titles.
Which camera? That camera, I hope. Let's take a break. Coming up, what goes into drawing a player offside? We're going to ask Jeff. Oh, look at that. Ask Jeff Saturday.
We're also going to ask him whether he leans toward Deebo Samuel or the Niners' long snapper in that sideline dust-up from Samuel.
I think Klay Thompson has a better chance of reaching the finals this year than Embiid. Do you?
Yes.
Because we always talk, can you get to the finals with Embiid?
Pardon me?
NFL analyst Jeff Saturday. And Jeff, I'm going off script here. because Mike and I live in Washington, D.C., and we pay attention to the Washington football team. And they had a chance to beat Pittsburgh the other day. It comes down to the last play. It's a 4th and 1. Pittsburgh lines up with Russell Wilson under center like they're going to snap it, but you know they're not going to snap it. Everybody knows they're not going to snap it, and they trapped a rookie defensive tackle into jumping. You've been on the other side of that as the center. Explain what happened.
Love it when a plan comes together. That's the best way, right? I mean, so offense, you get in the huddle or you're right, and the call in the no play, ready, let's go. Everybody runs to the line of scrimmage. All the offensive linemen get down in there in as low a position as possible because you're trying to implicate you're going to run the QB sneak, right? Something quick, something hitting up in the A gaps. So everybody's going to tighten up. Usually the defensive line and the defensive ends are screaming, watch the cadence, no snap. The linebackers are yelling, everybody's yelling, and then the quarterback will start going through his cadence. Now, when he does that, as an older center who wasn't afraid to break a rule or stretch it, I would, when the cadence says hut, I'd give a little squeeze on the ball, right? Little twitch, maybe, Is it in the rules? I don't know. I don't know if it is or isn't, but we do it. And the quarterback, his hands are under your butt. And when he gives a little flick, right? You're hoping that the defensive lineman sees something and it just triggers instinct and they fire out. Fortunately for them, they got the young man. He's a rookie. Everybody in his family, all his friends are like, no, not my baby, not my man. But it has happened to all of us. But let me give you one worse. Because when you're an offensive lineman, and this has happened more often than I would like to admit, when you jump off sides in a no play, and then Peyton Manning looks at you and go, hey, what play were you running? And you go, it's a great question. So we've all been there.
Great.
That's great.
Great. Needed clarity on that. Yeah.
That is wonderful. You can ask about the Chiefs?
No, it's over.
We're not going to ask about the Chiefs.
We're not going to ask about the Chiefs.
We're going straight to the Bears, and this hurts me deeply. This guy, Thomas Brown, the passing coordinator, comes into a new gig after his boss was fired. He has no line. He has no offensive line. He's got 4 of those guys hurt. His quarterback is now skittish. He's in a situation where the offense has never been good in like 100 years. Jeff, what's his priority? Where does this guy start to turn around a now dreadful season?
Yeah, no negative plays. If you can drive home anything to Caleb Williams at this point when he is feeling like the game is flying, is no negative. It is not a bad thing to throw the ball away. Stop looking for the big play to develop downfield. Let's get the ball out of our hands on time. Let's move the pocket, half field reads, small reads, but make sure the ball is coming out of your hand on time. We can live with all the rest of it. We can punt. We have a good enough defense to keep us in games. And honestly, you don't want to say this to him, but we know it ain't about wins at this point. It's about developing the future of your franchise. And by doing that and him finding rhythm, that will breed confidence. Then you take the shots. But it all starts in incremental steps. And it has to start with no negative plays. Don't take sacks. Don't throw the ball to the other team. Make sure it's on time to your guy. It doesn't have to be touchdowns, just completions and move the ball. That's where we start.
We'll get you out of here on this. This is a great question for an offensive lineman. Deebo Samuel got into it with Niners long snapper Tabor Pepper after Jake Moody missed for the 3rd time in that game. As a center, do you feel a kinship with the long snapper who sort of does what you do, or would you share Deebo's frustration over 3 missed kicks?
I'm probably sharing the frustration by Deebo, if I'm being honest, right? Now, I share a kinship. Justin Snow was our long snapper forever. That's my guy. And so I loved him. We had Vinatieri, in the latter portion of my career, so I wouldn't worry about him missing 3. I can understand the frustration. And you know what? In fairness, I can understand the long snapper taking up for his guy, right? So I don't mind it at all. And I think a lot of people are like, what happened? I'm going to tell you that, the sideline of a football field and the bench, it ain't choir practice, y'all. Like we don't always get along. There's a lot of things said to each other during games that you're glad aren't put on a mic and everybody hears. It is what it is. They're going to get through it. Nobody's going to go home hurt feelings. Everybody's going to get over it in a hurry. So I didn't mind either of the guys' reactions. And fortunately for them, they get the win. Moody makes that big kick, and hopefully that spurs them on to some wins.
Thank you, Jeff. As always, thank you.
Love y'all. Appreciate you.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, the Cowboys announced some bad news about Dak Prescott.
How much more bad news about Dak Prescott can there be?
No.
It's just like a repetitive.
It's out for the season.
Huh?
It's out for the season. Everybody knows that.
Get up and first take now. Cooper Flag and Duke. Big test tonight.
You spend a lot of money on clothing. Do you think Jeff is wearing a tuxedo? Like, is he wearing a tuxedo?
Classic midnight blue.
I mean, is that?
I think he's wearing an Eaton shirt.
Is he going out tonight?
Custom.
That's something fancy.
No, Jeff is well dressed.
Well,
Jeff knows
from you, that means something.
Jeff knows what he's doing.
From you.
Huh?
Happy 80th birthday, Al Michaels. Okay, he's our good friend. He's also one of the greatest sports announcers of all time. He had the call in the 1980 Olympic hockey game, Do You Believe in Miracles? One of the most famous calls ever. He did Hagler Hearns,
Ooh.
8 Minutes of Fury.
Ooh.
He's done football, baseball, basketball, hockey. He's worked with Howard Cosell, Doc Rivers, Chris Collinsworth, Bob Uecker, John Madden, Hubie Brown, Ken Dryden, Jim Palmer. Al has worked with everybody except us.
Yeah.
He had a great game last Thursday, Baltimore and Cincinnati. This Thursday's game, Washington and Philadelphia, should be great too. Happy birthday, Uncle Big Al.
Wow.
Wilbonny's probably on the 5th hole at Bel Air right now.
Could be at the turn. Let me just say this. I love hearing Al with everybody, all those people you just mentioned. I wanted to hear more of him and Doc Rivers calling the NBA together. Because I loved when they did that, before Doc got in a long coaching career. But I'm just saying.
Well, you know what you can find them together doing? Playing golf at Bel Air.
Yeah, not today,
At Bel Air.
Not today.
Happy anniversary, Mookie Betts. On this day 7 years ago, the now 3-time World Series champ bowled a 300 game at the PBA World Series of Bowling. Betts said it was the 10th 300 game he'd rolled. Betts won the PBA Celebrity Open in 2019. Typically, Betts bowls with professional Tommy Jones in pro celebrity events like the CP3 event. Wow. They won over Terrell Owens and Pete Weber. Betts has 3 World Series rings. He has an AL MVP from when he was with Boston. He's part of a devastating top of the order with the Dodgers, Ohtani, Betts, Freeman. He's been an All-Star 8 times, and he's bowled 10 300 games. Wilbon, you bowl.
Yeah.
How many 300 games you got?
Exactly 0. But I know somebody who's rolled at least 1. And the names are very similar, just add an I. My man Jerome Bettis. I will take Bettis and go against Mookie and whoever he wants to grab. I'll take Bettis. Bettis has at least 1 300 game. I know this for certain.
Does he have 10? Does he have 10?
I don't know. You believe
10,
Bettis really has 10?
10? Wow.
10's a lot.
A melancholy trails John Robinson. The longtime coach died Monday from pneumonia at the age of 89. Robinson was synonymous with football in Los Angeles for more than 20 years, with 2 stints at USC, sandwiching 9 seasons with the Rams. At USC, Robinson shared a national title in 1978 and coached Heisman Trophy winners Charles White and Marcus Allen, along with legends like Ronnie Lott, Bruce Matthews, and Anthony Munoz. Quote, "It was all coaching," Robinson once joked to The Athletic. "They really weren't worth a bleep until I got hold of them," unquote. Robinson's best friend since childhood was the late John Madden.
Tony, you think about the glamour associated with SC and the Rams. John Robinson, he was there. He oversaw much, if not all of that. I mean, he helped give them definition, which, by the way, neither one of those programs, even though the Rams have won a Super Bowl.
Not right now.
They don't have that right now.
Not right
now.
now.
They don't.
And also a melancholy trails Jerry Faust, the former Notre Dame head coach, who also died yesterday at the age of 89. The Irish hired Faust in 1980 out of Moeller High School in Cincinnati, where he had been 178, 23-2. It was an incredibly bold move on the part of Notre Dame. The school let Faust coach the full 5 years of his deal, and he had some big moments in that time, like the upset of Dan Marino in #1 Pitt, but ultimately it did not work. Notre Dame then switched to an established coach, Lou Holtz, and that did work.
Tony, I was a really young sports writer covering college football for the Washington Post, and I went out to South Bend when Coach Faust was struggling, and it was awkward to watch. It was he ultimately knew he's not going to get that done. But you know what? Nobody I've ever met in sports is more gracious than Jerry Faust.
That's nice to know. Quick to the big finish. Dak Prescott, surgery on his hamstring, out for the season. Your thoughts?
My thought is I hope he gets to come back and play somewhere else without the drama of Dallas. Anywhere else. College football playoff rankings out tonight. What are you watching for?
Where is Miami? Where is Georgia? Where is Indiana? The Cavs beat your Bulls and now 12-0. What do you like about them?
You know what I like about Kenny Atkinson? He's playing 10 guys, 16 minutes or more. spread the wealth. I love the way they're playing. 14-1 Winnipeg Jets take on the Rangers tonight. Who you got?
I love the Rangers, but I'll take the Jets. They seem to be really hot. Last one, college hoops tonight. 6th-ranked Duke meets 19th-ranked Kentucky in Atlanta. What intrigues you?
You know what intrigues me. You know what intrigues us all? We're going to watch Duke. In my house, we're going to watch Duke and a young man from Maine. You going to watch?
Yeah, I'm going to try to watch that. We're out of time.
Yeah.
We'll try and do better the next time, and I am Tony Cornell.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the app or Apple Podcast. Our friend Kendrick Perkins says
what did he say?
Is the
everything.
Real deal.
He's everything
the real deal
that it's stacked up to be, right?
That's what we hear.
Yeah.
Find out.
From Maine. You don't expect it.
No, you don't.
You don't. Yeah.
Your sports set.
Look at the Thunder over the last 3-4 years. They've leaned into small ball. They've been all about playing smaller, versatile lineups with all these defenders on the court. They went all in on that this summer, too, getting Alex Caruso. So I think they're going to lean more and more into playing this small ball lineup. We saw Jalen Williams, J-Dub, was guarding Ivica Zubac last night. And it's important to know, they do have 3 amazing centers, I think, on this team. You think about Isaiah Hartenstein, Chet Holmgren. They love Jalen Williams down there, too, the other Jalen. And I think in the meantime, you lean into small ball and just wait for those guys to get back in the lineup. But they're a team that's always going to be very interested in seeing what else is out there, but they're going to lean into what they have internally, which is a lot of small ball.
And Hartenstein's still a couple of weeks away, right?
Yeah, he's still got a couple weeks left on his reevaluation.
Okay, so while they're making all of these reevaluations, Shanae, it seems like these are some guys who play above their size in a way. Can Oklahoma City make this work without their bigs available?
They can on both ends. Offensively, the way small ball works, it helps when you have SGA dropping 45, so they're covered. But defensively, you're able to be versatile. They're the #1 defense in the NBA. And if you look at these plays, I love it here. Here, they're going to trap the system, James Harden. And what happens? Lou Dort is free safety. And then they have a switch on the backside where you zone up, where J-Dub does size to the rim and Isaiah Joe swaps out. And you see it. They're able to force a turnover. And on another play, that was a double. This time, they're not going to do that. They're going to switch again. They're going to switch here. And instead of the short roll, when you see it, they're going to size up. And there's a short roll. They've zoned up the back line, and they're able to respond and not overreact and be there to, again, force another turnover. So whether it's the double team or the switch, they move as a unit and they convert it to offense. And what I love is, and look at this number right here, the graphic, they forced 24 turnovers, the team second most in a game this season. This is the team that's #1 in defense and #1 in forced turnovers, over 20 a game. So when you can rely on that defense and then you get that type of production from SGA, the boys, they're going to be all right. They're going to be all right.
I love it. Not only #1 in defensive efficiency, but #1 in blocks, which may change because Chet is out, but they're #1 in steals and deflections. More minutes for Alex Caruso. I love it. Isaiah Joe, Lou Dort. These guys, they get active. They can play the small ball lineup like Golden State did some years ago when they had the death lineup with Iggy at the 5. So this is something similar, and I think they'll be very active and it'll be efficient.
You guys are making OKC fans feel pretty good. They play mismatch as well, Perk.
Yeah, they do. I mean, obviously being scrappy, being some dogs. They still gave up a lot of points to the Clippers last night, right? Norman Powell still had it his way. So I think this is going to help them more offensively. Like, we're going to see a more explosive SGA. He's going to be putting up big numbers. He has to, especially with filling that void or that gap with missing Chet Holmgren. But this team is going to be just fine. They're disciplined. And look, Chet Holmgren is going to come back, right, into what Sham said, 2 months.
Right.
I got to give a lot of credit to the medical staff down there in Oklahoma City. I'm telling you, it's one of the best in the NBA. The way that they go about it, led by my guy, Donnie Strack, who's down there, who's been there forever. He's going to come back. He's going to be better than ever. I mean, Isaiah Hartenstein is coming back in like 10 to 14 days, right?
Right. So the vibes are high, it seems, in Oklahoma City. If this were to happen to any team, we seem to feel the best about this as we possibly could. All right, let's take a look. Wednesday's star-studded doubleheader, though. Brandon Ingram and the Pelicans. Hopefully, the guy's still good to go in that one. Taking on SGA and the Thunder at 7:30 Eastern. Then out to L.A. for LeBron and Anthony Davis hosting the Grizzlies. We're going to be, speaking of Chase Center, we have two of our best reporters there now who are covering the same game, Kendra Andrews, Tim McMahon. I want to start with you on this one, Kendra. What specifically are you hearing in terms of the tribute that the Warriors have planned for Klay Thompson tonight?
Well, Malika, the Warriors are tributing him in a way that they say has never been done before in the NBA. Clay will be the 5th Dallas starter announced, and right before his introduction, there will be a minute-long tribute video. Now, I was told, look, we could have put together a 30-minute video, but 60 seconds is all that the NBA would allow for. After that video, Malika, is what you were talking about last week, the salute to the captain. 18,000 sailor hats will be passed out to fans, and at the conclusion of the video, the Warriors want everyone to tip their cap to Klay Thompson. After that, there's more. Stephen Curry will take center court to say a few words, address his former splash brother, and then the game will tip off. And Malika, when that happens, all of the pleasantries, they go out the window. The Warriors, they've kept their emotions in check when talking about Klay's return, but back in October, Stephen Curry told our Young Masuk, look, it's going to be war. And Draymond Green said, I'm going to run through his chest, explaining that when they have this level of brotherhood, they want to play him even harder than if it's just a regular opponent.
Yeah, so you're going from feeling warm and fuzzy to, all right, and now we've stepped between the lines, and I would imagine Klay Thompson feels similarly. Kendra, I'm glad we both got the plaid memo today, sis. Thank you so much. Enjoy the game. Let's take a look at this. Thompson, he's going to go down as one of the greatest of all time in Warriors franchise history here. He's made the 2nd most threes, won the 3rd most games, scored the 6th most points for Golden State over his tenure with the Bay Area with the Golden State Warriors. So that's the Warriors side of all this, Tim. Let's focus on the Mavericks side now. How do you expect, given all that we just heard from Kendra, Klay Thompson to react to everything Golden State has planned?
I mean, the Warriors are obviously feeling all sorts of warm fuzzies. I'm not so sure that Klay Thompson is right now. If he is, he certainly doesn't want to show it. I mean, he is stoic. You know, the other night after the Mavericks loss in Denver, he said this is just another regular season game in November. Then he corrected himself, admitted, yeah, it does mean a little bit more because it's the NBA Cup opener. I mean, really? Do you buying that, Malika? I asked Kyrie if he's buying that, and Kyrie says, sounds about right for a guy trying to downplay everything that he's going into. And, you know, Kyrie said, look, we understand the emotions. We understand the heaviness of this. He wants Klay to receive all the love, you know, see the flowers that he's being given. But Klay Thompson, one, I think, wants to focus much more on being starter for what they hope to be a contender Klay Thompson, not former Warrior Klay Thompson. And he just, it'll be interesting to see if he cracks it all during the ceremony. But he wants to be very focused, very locked in, and so far that's meant very stoic about this whole thing.
Yeah, I think going into the game, that makes all the sense in the world. I am curious, Tim, once he sees the tribute video, sees the rim, the nets that he knows so